So to legally ride a motorcycle here in the UK, you first need to complete several layers of training, jump through various hoops including 3 different tests, and even then, depending on your age, you might find that you're on a limited licence, and to progress onto a full licence, you need to wait a few more years and again undertake a series of tests. Whereas to legally drive a car, whatever the power that you can afford to insure, all you'll need to do is complete a theory test and then do 1 physical test, and after that, the licence is yours. So today I want to ask a question that a lot of people raised in the comment section on one of my previous videos. Is the UK motorcycle licence system designed to stop new riders? When you actually break the system down, the cost and the test and the age limits, it starts to feel like, a little less like training and more like a filter system, sifting out those who just can't be bothered to jump through all those different hoops. Now this video exists because of you guys. After my last industry video, I got a flood of comments saying things like, it's too hard to get a licence, it's clearly designed to put people off, and no wonder young people aren't bothering to ride anymore. These weren't just angry comments, they were consistent comments left in that video. Rather than arguing opinions, I went and looked into the data and read loads of news articles. So I looked around government data, DVSA figures, things here from the guys on MCM News talking about their research into the motorcycle licensing system, as well as insurance data and even international comparisons. And what I found surprised me a little bit. So let's start with what the system actually looks like today, because not all of my viewers will realise just how layered the UK system is. We have a sort of licence ladder, is the best way I can describe it here. You'll start with your compulsory basic training, which is also known as your CBT for short. And this is a 1-day training course that is designed to give you a basic introduction to motorbikes, basically. It really is bare bones stuff, but it'll get you from never being on a bike to being familiar with the controls and hopefully being confident enough to be out on the road. Now you can do your CBT from as early as 16 years old, and it's valid for 2 years. With your CBT completed, if you're 16, you can ride a bike of 50 cc's, but if you're 17, you'll be able to ride a bike of 125 cc's. With just a CBT qualification, you must only ride that bike with L plates on the front and rear, and you cannot take pillion passengers. To progress on to one of the 3 main A category licenses, you'll next need to sit your theory test and your hazard perception test. This again is only valid for 2 years from the date that you pass, and with that out of the way, depending on your age category again, you'll now be able to progress on to either do your A1, A2, or the full A licence. The A1 is for the younger riders, so those of you that are 17 or 18 years old. Passing this level will still limit you to a 125cc bike with a maximum power output of 15 brake horsepower, but you can now ride without L plates and you'll be able to take passengers on that bike. A2 is available for those aged between 19 and 24 years old, I think, and here you'll now have a power limit on the bike still, but you can ride bikes with a limitation of up to 46 brake horsepower, I believe, and it can't be a bike that, when unlimited, is any more than 93 brake horsepower. Finally, there's the main A licence. This is available for people over 24 years old, and for those people who are 21 or older and have had a previous A2 licence for 2 years. You can see how complicated things are now getting. Now, it doesn't matter what licence you're doing or when you're doing it, every single step that requires a theory and hazard perception, it requires you to pass Module 1 and then Module 2. So if you've got an A1 at 17 years old and you want to move up to an A2 at 19, then you need to go out and do the Mod 1 and Mod 2 test. And then you need to complete them again to jump from the A2 to the A licence. So theoretically, you could end up doing the tests, A1, your Mod 1, your Mod 2 test, again, up to 3 times during your riding career to fully kind of go through the different levels. And crucially, engine size and power restrictions are based on age, not skill alone. Now, when you compare that to the car licence, well, with those, it's just the hazard perception and theory test as usual. And then once you've done that, you'll have a few lessons and then pass 1 test. And depending on how much you've got in the bank to pay for your insurance, you'll be able to drive absolutely anything you want. Now, I don't personally think that feels fair. Do you? Now, it's not always been this way for motorcycle licences. For most of the 20th century, motorcycle licensing was simpler. You could ride bigger bikes much earlier with fewer tests and much less structure. So why did things all change? Well, because crash rates were absolutely horrific. By the 1980s, young riders were massively overrepresented in fatalities. That's when the government introduced the CBT in the early 1990s. And later, in 2013, the tiered system that we know today, largely driven by EU safety harmonisations, and on paper, the logic kind of makes sense. Motorcycling is dangerous. We, as motorcyclists, account for roughly 20% of UK road deaths, whilst making up only 1% of all traffic on the road. Per mile travelled, we, as a group of riders, are around 50 times more likely to be killed on a bike than if you're in a car. It's probably best my mum doesn't hear that. These stats are very real and they matter. So the idea behind graduated licensing is simple. It's less power and more experience equals fewer deaths, hopefully. But that's where things are not quite as straightforward as you might think. If the system was working, we'd expect two things to be happening. Fewer crashes on the road and more riders progressing safely. But DVSA data tells a very different story. Of the some 180,000 odd CBTs that are issued per year, roughly 40,000 go on to do the full licence or any additional training. That means roughly 4 out of 5 riders never actually progresses from the CBT. And government consultation confirms this. The CBT was never designed to be a permanent option, but it has become exactly that for many riders. So instead of improving skills long term, a system has been designed that enables people to get onto the road and get out there, enjoying two wheels and using it for work in many cases with the lowest training level possible. So how common is a graduated system globally? Well, let's take a look at the USA to start with. You get one endorsement, I believe, and any bike with absolutely minimum restrictions. In Australia, they have a similar graduated system, but it's much simpler to progress through the different levels. And in Japan, it's a very, very hard test, but earlier access is available to bigger bikes. So without going into the nitty-gritty, the key takeaway here is countries with a simpler progression system often have a higher licence completion rate. So difficulty alone doesn't stop riders as such, but the complexity of the system does. And the UK system is perceived by many to be an extremely complicated and arduous process to get through. Okay, let's take a quick pause break here just to mention the sponsor of this week's video. Again, it is the guys from True Tension. Keeping your bike in tip-top condition with these guys is easy. They provide a whole range of maintenance tools, bike covers, security devices, as well as an extensive range of cleaning products for your bike. They'll help keep your bike in the absolute best condition with any of the products that these guys are selling. And to top it all off, they are proper bike enthusiasts. They sponsor Trackhouse Racing MotoGP team, and being bike enthusiasts themselves, they know exactly the kind of products that you and I and everyone else that's into biking needs to maintain their bike. There's an affiliate link in the description below. I will earn a small commission if you were to use that, but you can ultimately save yourself 30% off by using the code on the screen, and you will not pay a penny extra by using that affiliate link. It genuinely does help support the channel if you buy anything through that link, as a little bit of money comes back to me and it helps me produce this free-to-view content. Anyway, we'll get back to the video. So then, back to the main question. Is the UK motorcycle licence structure designed to put new riders off and filter out the less dedicated riders? Well, the simple answer is no. That would be a really pessimistic way of looking at it. It's not designed to stop new riders entering the industry and enjoying this kind of great hobby that we all enjoy, but the outcome matters much more than the intent. And the outcome of the current system is we are seeing fewer younger riders, which is resulting in an ageing community of riders and a shrinking industry participation. The system sort of selects for people with a bit of time on their hands, a little bit more money, and a willingness to be persistent and actually kind of get through and get that license. That's not inherently evil, but it is a real problem. Overhauling the current system isn't about removing safety. It's about, offering better training, not more tests, and trying to help ease progression, not putting in more barriers, and incentivizing skill more than just stalling riders because of their age. If we want motorcycling to survive long term, especially here in the UK, then these conversations need to be happening. So I'm going to put it back to you guys. Let me ask you, did the licensing system here in the UK help you or nearly stop you? Or what was the licensing system like where you're from if you're one of my international viewers? Drop your story in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, then please do hit the like button. And if you can, if you're watching on a mobile device, hit that hype button as well. It tells YouTube that this video is worth sharing, and I'll be really grateful, and it just helps my channel see more viewers. And if you want more honest, data-driven motorbike content, subscribe by clicking my face over here. And you can watch another one of my videos by clicking one that I've put on the screen just up here. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Oh, the dog's coming in. Hello, dog.